Hello and welcome to liveconfident.com. And in today's live stream, I want to cover a topic that I think many people will experience in their life, not just people with shyness or social anxiety. And that topic is insomnia, the inability to sleep, or that feeling where you're awake till 2, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, or even later. Or you can get to sleep, but you're waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning and then you can't sleep again. And you have to start your day sleepy and groggy. And it's because your brain is churning over, it's ruminating, and it won't let you rest. Even if you're physically exhausted, your brain is still working over at 100 miles per hour. Now, I've got thinking about doing this topic today because I was recently asked, how did I get over my insomnia? Now, in my 20s, probably from my late teens onwards, and throughout most of my 20s, I was an insomniac. I could not sleep, but I wasn't proactive in trying to overcome it. I didn't think there was a possible way of actually overcoming it, so I accepted it as just another aspect of my messy life as it was at that time. I had a lot of issues going on and a lot of anxieties, a lot of fears and worries, and they kept me from sleeping. And I used self-medication to go to sleep. I used alcohol quite often to help me sleep. But it's a poor quality of sleep that you get. And I always woke up 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. If I was lucky, and I would get maybe 3 or 4 hours sleep a night, and that went on for about 10 years. But whether it's alcohol, or whether it's a prescription medication, or something you pick up in the chemist that isn't organic, it's not herbal, I mean to say, it's not a good solution. These solutions interfere with your ability to dream, and the facility of dreaming itself is your body's way of putting its life into order and repairing itself, ready for the next day. And if you take these medications, they interfere with that sleeping pattern, and while you may get to sleep, it's a poor quality of sleep, so you still wake up tired and groggy and grouchy. So I don't know if this is something you're familiar with, but I think at some point in most people's life, they go through a period of insomnia. So the question is, how do you get over it? What can you do about it? And I'm going to cover that, but I also want to cover a little bit about the dreams themselves, in case you don't know, because this is a topic that's interested me for a long time, and while I've not looked into it for a long time, it's something I used to be very interested in. And of course we have sleep cycles, we call them circadian rhythms, and they last for about an hour and a half, and you come into the end of one of these sleep cycles, and this is where you go from deep sleep into light sleep, and when you wake, this is when you remember your dreams, and then your body will go into its next sleep cycle. But what most people don't realise is that these cycles keep going throughout the day. Even after you wake up, we're still going through these circadian rhythm. I think they have a different name for it during the day. I forget what that name is. But it's the same thing. It's your body going through a cycle of receiving information and then going into a little bit of downtime, maybe half an hour out of each hour and a half to process that information. And that's, you may recognise that period during the day when you're trying to learn something, or maybe you're driving and you really can't concentrate on it. You can't make any information stick in your mind. Or if you're driving and then you suddenly realise that you've just been driving for the last 10 minutes or so and you've got no idea where you've just driven through. Your mind completely wasn't on the driving, and you just come back to awareness, and you're a little bit shocked by the fact that your mind wasn't on the driving at all. And this is that period in your circadian rhythm where your brain has gone into downtime and it's processing, and you're not able to really learn very well. You're in a bit of a daze during these periods. So it's important to know that what's happening with your body. It's good to have a little bit of knowledge like this. But when it comes to dreams themselves, this during the night, this is your subconscious processing all the information it's received during the day, and it's stored it up. Like, now we may be walking down the street during the day and we might only be aware of a couple of percent of what's happening around us, but our subconscious is drawing everything in from the environment, every little nuance of what's happening, and it's happening below our conscious awareness, but it's all being drawn in. So at night time, when we go to sleep, that's when the subconscious continues to process that information and put it into order. Now, when we have anxieties, it's also trying to find a solution to these anxieties. And this is where we need to have the ability to dream so that our brains can process all this information. Because if we wake up too soon, or we don't get sleep, or we medicate, and we inhibit that ability of the subconscious to get on with its job, then our body and our mind is not repairing itself. Now, I think it was Einstein himself that came up with the idea that in dreams, it's about symbolism. What you dream about is symbolic. Say, for instance, you dream about your teeth dropping out. Now, there's books you can buy on books, and you can look it up, and you can see what that means, the meaning of your teeth dropping out in your dream. This has been disproven by now, of course, because I mean, think about it. I mean, let's say, for instance, you dream about water, and you go and look up in a book, what's the meaning of water? But for you personally, water might have a completely different meaning than to somebody else. For you, it might be, you might associate water with fun, with being able to swim. You might love water and swimming and all that business. But to somebody else, water might represent a phobia. They may hate water. So how can one book tell these two different people what the meaning of water is? It's very subjective. It was probably, I'm on a bit of shaky ground here, but I'm guessing it was probably Carl Jung that later came up with the idea that dreams are about finding solutions and processing problems and coming up with solutions to problems we have, and anxieties and issues, unresolved issues. And during your sleep, your brain is trying to find a solution to these unresolved issues and problems. And it might be in the present. You might have an issue in the present. I mean, a dream about your teeth falling out, that might just be related to the fact that you've had a poor dental routine in the past, and you're anxious about it because you're worried about the health of your teeth. And your brain is trying to process this problem. Or it may be that your teeth are in, you look after your teeth, but you've not been to a dentist in many, many years. And subconsciously you're anxious about it. This is your brain. This is your brain finding a solution to a problem that's not resolved. And what you can do is when you wake up and you remember your dream, you can actually think about what that dream represents. Instead of asking what was it symbolizing, what was the symbolism of that dream, instead ask yourself, what problem was my brain trying to solve in that dream? What issue was it trying to find a solution for? Now, these solutions, these issues, these unresolved issues can go all the way back to childhood. Your brain can still be trying to find a solution to an issue that happened in childhood. And it might be on an infinite loop that it can't resolve. And so you've got this perpetual anxiety going on at the back of your mind that you may only be peripherally aware of. But on a nightly basis, your brain is still trying to find a solution that no longer exists. Let's say you had an issue with a person many years ago, and maybe that person is now no longer alive, and you've got an unresolved issue with them which can no longer be resolved. You can no longer approach that person and bring closure to that issue. But your brain is still there, still processing it. So it might be an issue in your present, in your near past, or in your distant past. Your brain is still processing and trying to find closure to issues. And when we've got a lot of anxieties, a lot of issues and fears and worries about the future, this, what I believe, is what stops us from sleeping, because it becomes just too much. And we lie awake in bed at night and we're churning over, we're ruminating on these problems, these issues, these fears that we have. And it's interfering with our ability to actually fall asleep. And when we do manage to fall asleep, then we continue this process of ruminating on these issues. And so what's the solution? Well, the solution isn't a quick one. But I want to quickly share with you, because it's just occurred to me. When I started going to hypnotherapy on a hypnotherapy course at the London College of Hypnotherapy many years ago, the director of the London College came over from his home in Poland. He did so every time a new class enrolled, and he would come over and do a talk on the first day of enrolment. And when he came over and did the talk for our batch, he talked about insomnia and the inability to sleep. And he said that the problem is that people are trying to sleep. They're thinking, they're telling themselves they can't sleep, and they're trying to sleep, and they're focusing on the problem. And it's perpetuating the problem. And the solution is to actually do the opposite and try not to sleep. Try your best not to sleep. Now, I never really fully took that advice on board. I mean, it wasn't a problem for me by that time. I'd got over my own insomnia by then, and I didn't really connect with that advice. But I'm throwing it out there for you, because maybe you can process it, maybe you can try it, and maybe it'll work for you. And that advice was to actively try not to sleep. And perhaps the idea was to just exhaust yourself into a routine of sleep. I don't know, I never fully got on board with that advice, but it came from a very authoritative place. And so I'm passing that on to you. Now, moving on, I think the solution to insomnia, and it's quite a pragmatic solution, is simply this. You have to be proactive in finding a solution to those things that are causing you anxiety. Let's say, for instance, that you're a young person, you're still stuck at home. Now, if you have an issue, an anxiety in life, and you need to find a solution for it, you need to be proactive in finding that solution, so that you can bring peace to your mind, so that your mind can then sleep peacefully at night. So suppose you're still living at home, but you're in a toxic environment and you're getting negative messages, but you feel trapped and you're stuck there. And what you're going to do about it, maybe this is the biggest issue in your life. You're surrounded by toxic people that don't understand you, and they're not good for you, they're not healthy for you. And you need to find a solution for this, because this is keeping you up at night. You're worrying about it constantly, and you're ruminating, and your thoughts are going round in circles, and you can't find an exit ramp for this loop that you're stuck in. And that's what you need to do, is find an exit ramp for this constant loop of anxiety that your mind is going around in. So, to find the solution to any problem, you have three options. You either learn to live with it, you go through it, or you leave the problem. You go around it, you circumnavigate it, you leave the problem. So that's your three options. Now the first one, learning to live with it, this is probably the worst option of all. It's a lazy solution, and it doesn't actually provide any solution. It's just you learning to accept the situation as it is, and try and just learn to live with it. There's no other way of putting it. It's not a good solution. It's not a healthy solution. And what does that leave you in this scenario? Well, you can challenge the situation. You can try and change it in your favour so that the solution, the problem breaks down. It's no longer a problem. Let's say the problem is pushing against you and you can't move forward in your life. So you have to break down this problem. You have to change it. And if using the scenario of you being stuck at home or in an environment where people are toxic towards you, you're getting bad messages and it's drawing you down, causing you low self-esteem, you have to, the way to approach it, of course, is to approach these people that are causing you this issue and have it out with them. See if you can find some common ground to move forward and say to them, look, here's my problem. This is what I need to do to get over it. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I need to do. Maybe they have a positive intention behind their messages towards you. Maybe they think they're doing you a favour by giving you negative messages. Maybe they think that that's motivating you to do something that they want you to do. So maybe there's a positive message that they're trying to give to you, but unless you talk to them and try and resolve this issue, you're never going to find out, and you're never going to find a common ground where you can both move forward. Now, this is a very mature way of sort of approaching this problem, and it's not something I can really go into more depth with on this live stream. Maybe you need more professional help or to learn some mediation techniques in order to use this approach if this is a particular issue for you. So what's the third option? You can leave the situation, and this involves continuing with the same scenario. If you're stuck in an environment where it's toxic to you and you're receiving negative messages and people generally are treating you badly and it's impacting on you and your self-esteem and your confidence, and you feel that the best solution is to leave that environment, and maybe it is. Maybe this is a good option for you, but it's a dramatic option as well. It's a life-changing option. It's an option that I've taken in the past, but it's no lightweight solution. It involves a big upheaval, and it involves resources, and you may be tied down with obligations. I don't know. It's going to be different for everyone, but it could be a good solution if you feel that you can't resolve the differences you have with the people currently in your life. So that's the third option, to leave the situation and start fresh somewhere else, perhaps where nobody really knows your past, and you have a clean slate, a fresh start with